Welcome back. Hope you guys are doing well. Just got back from a run. Wanted to make somewhat of a quick video, go over. So you're a new vegan, or you're thinking about it. You're on the fence. You're wanting to go for a while, or you just heard of it, or someone in your family went and you want to know more about it. Well, for someone just starting or someone who's thinking about it, first thing you want to consider is how you're going to do it. Are you going to delve in it completely and completely cut off animal products? And what are what transition foods are you going to use, if any, right? And I'll go into what that means. So you've been eating dairy and meat and flesh your whole life, right? Like most of us, right? Rarely is someone born into this lifestyle. We're taught at a very young age to love certain animals and eat others, right? We love our dogs, we love our cats, we love horses, we love whales and dolphins, and we eat others, right? We ride on horses' backs. We have to break the horses to have us ride on, but we love them, right? Keep them in a little corral and ride them when we want to. So you have to be careful if you have been eating meat and cheese and eggs all day long, every day for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. If you do that and you go fully whole food, plant-based, there's differences. Vegan is not does not stand for health. That's whole food. Vegan stands for health. You can certainly be a vegan and eat certain Oreos, Doritos, Impossible burgers, Beyond, Thai food without fish sauce, so on and so forth. Most restaurants have a couple vegan options, right? That will be loaded with fat and yummy food, right? French fries. You can thrive on French fries, right? Not thrive, but you can eat them all day long. Not at Portillo's. If you in the Chicagoland, they fry their fries in lard, or it's either lard or tallow, beef tallow. So that is not a vegan item. If you've been eating Portillo's fries and think it's vegan, it is not. Potato is, but when it's fried into beef fat, it no longer is. So if you've been eating dairy and meat, you have certain microbes in your system that have thrived on consuming the waste products of that. And what happens is when you eat, whether it's crappy vegan food or non-vegan food, you bring up destructive microbes, and it pushes off the good microbes, and the bad ones thrive. That's why you feel like crap after you eat a meal like that, right? So to transition over to new microbes, it takes quite a bit of time. So if you're just gonna go from that and just start eating whole foods like beans, whole grains, and a ton of greens and broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, and that's it, you are going to struggle. You are going to be so bloated. Whether you're a guy or girl, you are going to be very bloated. Now, you want all those foods in you. That's what you really want to eat to be a healthy human. But if you can handle it, I certainly was able to. I was not very uncomfortable, but I can tell you many people in my family were uncomfortable. And most people are. When you go to, eating like that, to beans and whole foods, you will be uncomfortable for first week, and then it'll get better and better. But if you're having a ton of beans, even if you do eat very healthy, beans, lentils, they can creep up on you. So I do it how you like. I prefer to jump all in and deal with that, but just slower. Maybe less beans, more grains, and less cruciferous vegetables. Maybe have some, spinach and, some Swiss chard, and greens you can handle. Not head of lettuce, that's certainly fine, but that's just water. But careful on all the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbages. Introduce those slowly, unless you're already eating them. But if you're getting rid of dairy and all that, you will have a transition period that will take a little bit. Don't get frustrated, and you don't need to take a bunch of Tums and Pepcid and everything. Just your body will need to change, right? If you start introducing flax seeds, which I recommend every female should at least have a tablespoon of flax seeds ground every day. It's a great prevention of breast cancer, and for men, prostate cancer. Those can be very difficult on your stomach. Those are not to be taken whole. They are not to be bought ground. You buy the whole and you grind them right before you eat them. So you don't make a big batch. You just make a little bit for what you're going to have. Those are extremely your highest in omega-3s, right? Everyone complains. Ex-vegans complain, and they were never vegans in the first place. If you were an ex-vegan, you were just experimenting. Say they get cloudiness and as soon as they have a fish again, their head clears up and they feel great again. Well, that's because they were low on omega-3. You can get plenty of omega-3 through, I never push oils, but flax oil is the only oil out there that is good for you. It needs to be refrigerated. So flax oil, flax seeds, chia seeds will be perfectly great, even if you are not going vegan. It's B12, vitamin D, if you're not getting in the sun. And I don't think you need the omega vitamins personally. I think you can get them through natural sources, but if you are transitioning, you may want to get some in your system until those pathways open up for you, which will take some time because your omega-6 and omega-3 balance is way out of whack. I'm sure, like most of us, you eat anything processed with soybean oils and all those seed oils, except for flax, which is extremely high in 3. You're probably at a 20 to 30 to 1 balance of 6s. You need to have 6s in your life, but we are way out of whack like this, right? This needs to be higher. You have your inflammatory and your anti-inflammatory. They need to do their job and heal you. Then they need to back off and have your omega-3s come in and do the job. So just be careful with that. There's a ton of resources out there. If you can make homemade kimchi, that's a great thing to help with your microbes. You should have that anyways, but that is not to be a meal. That is, you make kimchi. There's a ton of great vegan recipes out there for kimchi. And I recommend that anyways, having a little bit every day or at least every other day. And I mean, just a little bit. It's a condiment. It is not your main food. So if you need a transition food, if you can't fathom just, you don't just eat salads, but if you can't fathom giving up your burger and your hot dogs and your beef sandwiches, I understand you're going to crave it, and cheese, which we'll talk about, you're going to crave it for a little bit. You're going to crave, when I went vegan, what hit me was the craving of the texture. I thought I was going to eat black bean burgers for the rest of my life, and it was daunting. I'd be able to do it, but then all of a sudden Impossible Foods came out and all these other things that I'll go into that just like, that goes away, by the way. Your craving of cheese completely goes away. My wife makes homemade vegan cheeses, and there are incredible ones on the market, but that goes away. The textural thing goes away as well, but it doesn't need to if you need to transition. Right? I thought I was just going to eat raw for the rest of my life. I do not do that. I don't do it. So you have transitional foods that you should not be eating every day. But you have, Impossible, Gardein, Morningstar. You have breakfast sausages. You have everything you can think of. Chicken fingers. My youngest was a very big, chicken lover. Loved chicken fingers, right? Do chickens have fingers, by the way? No, but she loved breaded chicken. That's not an issue. Beyond, Gardein, Morningstar, Impossible, you name it. Every store has their own brand now, right? They're private labeling. I will tell you, it's the Beyond steak that they have, their little steak. It's the most incredible thing you've ever had. I mean, it will take care of that craving for you. That's everywhere. It's in a bag. Feed 3 to 4 people on it. Make put it on a salad, make burritos. We do tacos with it. We do anything you can think of that you need. It's seasoned. I would add some seasoning to it, some seasoning of your choice, but very, very easy. Also at Trader Joe's, they have more than you can imagine. They keep adding products. Their cream cheese there, the Trader Joe's brand, private labeled cream cheese. No weird aftertaste. It is perfect. I have, 20 at a time in my fridge. And their bulgogi, they have a vegan bulgogi that in the frozen section that it's incredible. Also, you can get that edamame there, but they have Impossible, everything you can think of. They had a couple private labeled vegan chickens, ground chicken that was great, but they no longer have it. They always cancel stuff, but they have chorizo in their not frozen section, but in the refrigerated section, a vegan chorizo that is great when you want Mexican food. But the cream cheese there is just second to none. I have not had one better. And also, if there's a ton of resources out there on YouTube in regards to vegan channels. We make our own cheese. Like I said, my wife makes it out of cashews, or she makes a natural cheese out of, believe it or not, potatoes and a few other things that, vegan milks in it. You wouldn't notice the difference. I'm telling you, she was already a great baker. I mean, she, to begin with, for generations in her family, great baker, great cook. It took her a little bit of time. I mean, we do Christmas cookies, 1,000 of them, 30 different varieties, give them as gifts. When she transitioned over to veganism, took her a while to get the baking down with the right butter and everything, but you would not notice the difference. And that is, we give them as gifts and everything, boxes of them, and you couldn't tell. It's extremely impressive. But, she personally does not like the Miyoki butter. She uses Country Crock, I believe, and they have Country Crock. She uses the avocado or the almond butter, not the olive oil one, because not for baking, because it tastes truly like olive oil. So the Trader Joe's one or Country have really mild butters that you wouldn't know of. Definitely not a health food. It's butter. It's just not made out of animal. It's made out of a bunch of vegetable oil. So it's not a health product, but depends what your goal is, right? Key is you sticking to this, starting and never going back, right? But you only do that if you incorporate health into it, right? You really need to. Otherwise, you will feel like crap if you're just eating vegan junk food, which you can. And like I mentioned in my other video, I am right now having both. After this, I'm going to have my gigantic salad with grains and everything. And then tonight, my wife made stuffed pizza the other night for when my parents were over, and sausage on it, vegan sausage. She used Impossible Italian sausage, put it on there, and made a homemade sauce, thick crust. And then the other pizza for my parents was spinach, kale. They're vegan as well, along with my sister, and they're almost 80 years old, and they're in better shape than most 30-year-olds now. My mom was a vegetarian really for a long time, not for ethical reasons, all for health for them. Now they're ethical. Since years ago, I kind of showed them it's great that you're doing it for health, but look at this. Being health will never keep you vegan. The ethical side will. Now, if you're doing it for health, that's one thing, but digging deeper into it, health is amazing with it. You will never feel better. I recommend putting turmeric in your diet as well every day. And people say you have to have it with pepper. You don't. You just have to have it with some type of fat. But I would recommend turmeric and ginger every day for, and especially while you're transitioning, it'll help your gut microbes. So that on the, and sausages, if you want, the Beyond and Impossible sausages are just absolutely ridiculous. If you want a brat or anything like that, if you're vegan and you're trying to get your husband to eat more of that food, cook them those. Don't tell them, will you notice the difference? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be near as fatty, but they're incredible. No one dislikes them. I mean, my extended family, not one of them is vegan or cares to be or wants to hear about it. When we have them over, we cook. They love it, except for a couple of them that are, would never even dream of eating something that wasn't, killed an hour or so before, it was served. But uh, there are so many transition foods. Don't be afraid to try it, or with your kids, don't be afraid to sneak in some of the vegan chicken nuggets. There's Nugs. There's all the other brands I mentioned. They're more and more coming every day. And something you have to think about if you do have kids and or if you're getting older, all the antibiotics that you've had in your food for, every chicken that you've eaten and cow, unless it's antibiotic free, it's had genetic modifications. But if not, you are getting, antibiotics. How do you think they have the chickens grow so fast in the pigs? It's with a ton of hormones and other things, right? But there's antibiotics. I go to chicken hatcheries and chicken sheds, so many times where there's 20,000 chickens in a shed, 20,000, and we wonder why we get avian flu. And years and years ago, I worked for a company where I sent heaters to Iowa to they had some avian flu come out, and I sent heaters there to, before I was vegan, had to kill. And what we did is you send heaters and you turn off the air flow in the sheds, and you pump in hot air, and it kills them. It overheats them. And these chicks are only 6 weeks old. The chickens you eat are 6 weeks old. They grow that big. Most of them, 10-20% of them have heart attacks before they even reach it to the slaughterhouse, but they grow so enormous, they lose their feathers and everything. And you're eating that, and they're sucking on antibiotics all day long, right? Because that's what gets them to grow so fast. I mean, the chickens used to take 3-4 months back when, your parents were kids or you were a kid, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Now they do it in six weeks. There's repercussions to that. Look at the footage, and you'll see what I mean. But that's so I hope that helps in regards to food. There's so many resources out there as well that I'd like to, that you should look up. Dr. Neal Barnard, Physicians Committee. He's his grandfather. He's from North Dakota. His grandfather was a cattle rancher, and so was his dad, and a doctor. And Neal Barnard, when he was in school, he was working in the morgue and of the hospital, and he was an assistant at the time. And as they were cutting it open, he asked, "Well, what is that stuff?" "Well, it's yellow. It's fat. It's from bacon, and it's in the guy's arteries, right?" And at that time, his dad, who was a doctor, had type 2 diabetes, and he said, "You just get a pill, and you get a shot when you need it, and that's how you go." And Dr. Neal Barnard said, "That just doesn't make sense." And he was able to that you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes, right? Type 2 diabetes is nothing more than insulin resistance. You have a key and a keyhole. If you're severely overweight, or even slightly overweight and older, but you eat a ton of fat, it gets cooked up, you can't get the key in, you can't get the insulin in, right? So the sugar doesn't get in, glucose doesn't get in, it stays in your bloodstream. You have issues, right? By losing all that visceral fat, you're able to get the key in, and you can reverse it. Look at the Mayor Eric Adams. He's a perfect example of someone, I don't think he's fully vegan, I think he eats fish, but he was going blind, had type 2 diabetes, obese, saw the light, did it for health, could care less about animals, was able to reverse it. Look into his story. So Dr. Neal Barnard with Physicians Committee, he has they have a podcast every day on YouTube, Physicians Committee. Look it up. It's great info. The guy who hosts it used to be about 500 pounds. Well, look at him now. He's unreal. He's never been healthier. And it's just, he went completely whole food. and changed his life. There's some interesting stories, and he interviews doctors every day, and they might have a topic. He has a gut doctor on there monthly that goes over, what we were discussing on your microbiome, and he'll go over a lot of that every month. Dr. B. Brenda Davis, she's a dietitian from Canada who went vegan a long time ago. Look her up. She can give you some good info with raising your children vegan, or you transitioning, and what to have and what not to have, in regards to it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb, right? If you're trying to get calcium, which I'll talk to in a minute, there's certain things you want to eat and certain things you still want to eat, but you're not going to get the absorption of calcium with it because they're high in oxalates. That would be Swiss chard and spinach. Great for you. Eat them, but you will not absorb the calcium you want from them like you will with the cruciferous green vegetables, and that's where you get it. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, has a diet that's pretty intense, but his kids who are full grown have never taken an antibiotic. They've been on plants their whole life, whole foods. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, he's an intense guy, but he's now retired, but he will, his diet is very strict, but he's never had an antibiotic as well. Dr. Michael Clapper, look him up. He will give you all the facts. Incredible. If you have heart issues, Dr. Esselstyn, he is a doctor who does it not for ethical reasons, and he has been able to, out of the Cleveland Clinic, reverse heart disease. It has to, you have to eat greens quite often, but look him up if you are suffering from heart disease at all. Dr. Esselstyn. Dr. John McDougall, he has a starch diet. Look him up. He's an intense guy as well. He's getting up there in age, but still doing well. If you want to check facts on anything, Dr. Greger with nutritionfacts.org, when he was a kid, his grandmother was suffering from heart disease, heart failure, and she was given about 6 months to live. She found Dr. Dean Ornish and went on his diet and lived for another 30 years until she was like 95, 96. And out of that, Dr. Greger, a light bulb came out and dedicated his life to that. So all his stuff on nutritionfacts.org is all science-based. It is not biased. You'll see there's certain things where he'll say, okay, it's something on a certain nut or soy or whatever it may be. And he will go over putting it to the test. He reads all the papers, puts a book out every year, basically. But look at his site. He will, no BS. He will tell you if something is BS or not. Right? He looks at the facts. Facts, though, can be skewed anyway. Science is science, right? Science is always changing. As Dr. Brooke Goldner says, we can read all the papers we want and have all the science, but you got to have the people doing it and seeing if it works. And that's what she's done. So she doesn't care what a paper says. She knows what worked to cure her and 1,000 others with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, lupus, heart disease, multiple sclerosis. I mean, it sounds too hard to believe. I'm telling you, I have an autoimmune disease. Certainly helped me. Very difficult to do. That is fully raw, but I won't get into the details now. Dr. Brooke Goldner, goodbye autoimmune disease or goodbye to lupus on YouTube. If any of you are religious, I would recommend looking up Dr. Milton Mills. He's a Seventh-day Adventist. So he went for those reasons when he was a teenager. And he's an amazing doctor, but he went for religious reasons and then obviously found out about the health and then the ethical reasons. And Dr. Milton Mills, he will blow you away with the knowledge that he can and the facts he can tell you. So, I mean, depending on how you want to do it, your transition, or if you're thinking about it, you can do it slow, baby steps. We're not babies, right? But I think depending on your lifestyle, just do it. If you have to do it slow, do it slow. But you need some support, right? And you might need some motivation. If you've seen some videos and it's disturbing to you and you want to learn more, there's some educators out there that I want to recommend. First of all, let's talk about a couple of resources in regards to movies to learn more, or if you're on the fence. First one would be, and these are free, Dominion on YouTube. If you can watch that, I commend you. I did many years ago. That is about the animal agriculture and how it's prevalent and used in everything. Watch Dominion and let me know your thoughts on YouTube. Next one is Earthlings. Okay. That's what Joaquin Phoenix narrates that. Land of Hope and Glory. For people who want to think of health and want to know, can I really live without a chicken in me, or eggs, or dairy? Watch what's for athletes. You'll see it is done by an MMA fighter who got hurt and wanted to heal and was far from vegan. Looked into it, went vegan, and was blown away. And he interviews all these elite athletes who are vegan, going from tennis players to bodybuilders to NFL football players, basketball players, and you will be amazed by what you saw. So that's Game Changers. Then one that I saw back in 1990, I forgot all about it. It was very disturbing to me. I was 1990. I was 18 years old. It was on HBO called To Love or to Kill: Man vs. Animal. YouTube that. It's old school. Don't look at that one first, but that one is very disturbing. It just shows you how the world, we don't even think about it, right? A lot of stuff in America, some stuff in Asia with cats and dogs. And it's just, how we'll be here on the 4th of July somewhere in Tennessee, and they get like 5,000 birds, and with their family, they picnic and they just let go of the birds, cage by cage, and just have target practice with them. Thousands of birds, just target practice with them, right? That's how I became an animal activist back when, a long time ago. The group I was in was big into, in Minnesota, they do these pheasant things where they tie pheasants to tires and they just have target practice with them. Rodeos and, these pigeon shoots that are just pathetic. You just think of them as pigeons or fish, right? No one thinks of fishing, but I recommend all those. Those are amazing. What the Health is great to just see the of what we've been told, right? People who will be blown away by the ADA or the Heart Association. You go on their websites. What do they recommend? They recommend bacon and chicken and a skinless chicken breast. Well, you'll soon to find out if you watch What the Health. White meat is no better for you. It's high in cholesterol. They inject sodium right into it. You'll see all that. Watch What the Health. You'll be blown away about how the wool has been, no pun intended, pulling over your eyes. So a couple resources on some very good activists that I like to support. Joey Carbstrong. It's Joey Carbstrong on YouTube. He's amazing. Really good activism and a trooper. He's an ex-gang member and wanted to change his life. So he's been vegan for 10 years, but he does an amazing job with his activism and education. He educates a ton of people. Ed Winters, or Earthling Ed, British man, very elegant, and I recommend watching him. Best by far, who will really open your eyes, is Gary Yourofsky, as I mentioned before. Gary Yourofsky. Watch his stuff, but first watch his video, the best speech I've ever shown, right? It's an hour long. Watch it. Don't listen to it. Watch it and listen. But you need to have the visual. Gary Francione, he's been an educator for years. He's an attorney and professor. He started out as an attorney for he was for PETA back in the 80s, and he split away from them because he has an approach he came up with called the abolitionist approach. And he doesn't want animals used for anything, and he goes over all the reasons, his approach. He had a couple steps on how to do that, but I recommend looking him up. Also, AV stands for Anonymous for the Voiceless. Look them up. They do a good job. I do a lot of activism with them. It's been a while, but they have chapters all over the world. They're a group out of Australia, Anonymous for the Voiceless. Here in America, Lifting Vegan Logic. He's great. He goes over health and vegan info. He's a big guy. You'll see what he he was in shape before he went vegan, but now he's brought it to a new level. Speaking of health, Rich Roll podcast. He does it on YouTube and he has a podcast. You just want to look at the audio. He's former attorney who was an alcoholic and was ruining his life, and he wanted to find a way and to get out of the trap. And he started eating plants and never felt better, and gave up alcohol, gave up flesh, dairy, was able to do triathlon after triathlon in his 40s. He's a great educator, not on vegan stuff, just in general life, but he has some stuff on there. He'll have doctors and everything, but really it's not a vegan focus. But he is a perfect example of someone who could turn his life around and get his health back and exceed in his 40s and 50s. Swish for Good podcast. Speaking of Olympic athletes, Dotsie is a former Olympic gold medal winner cyclist, and there's an actress who they do a good podcast and a lot of dairy focus. Vegan Linked is a good one. That's an interview show. They interview new vegans and vegans who have been transitioned 40 years ago, and they give their story and why and what drove them to that, and the benefits since they went vegan, and they go over a lot of that. Food, you can just look it up. There's a ton, but Mary's Test Kitchen is pretty good. Some of them get a little advanced, and you might say, geez, this is a pain in the butt, all these ingredients and everything. Well, you're doing that anyways if you cook at home, So it's really, once you get into the flow of things and you see how you feel, you'll do much better. Now, for those of you who may be struggling big time, you just turn vegan and you're waking up to a nightmare, right? When the light goes on, you're like, everywhere I turn, it's everywhere. They're wearing it. I'm wearing it. I have it on my shoes, everything in my home, my couch, my car. Everything has animal products. Even the sugar that you eat, some of it was distilled or through bone, and the wine you drink, some of it was filtered with bone. The gummy bears you eat have pig bones in it, right? Gelatin is nothing more than pig flesh and bones, and cow flesh and bones. Gelatin. It's disgusting. I've seen the gelatin trucks. It's gross. I've seen it arrived at a couple of my customers. It's a truckload of flesh, rendered parts from the slaughterhouse floor, right? I'll get thrown in a bucket. That turns into your gummy bears. Doesn't make much sense, right? And gelatin, that's what it is. But there's a group called Vistopia, Vistopia. They're helpful with that. But I'm here too, if anyone watches this, to answer any questions and guide you the best way I can, because it's not easy. As I've mentioned before, it is not easy that first year, right? It's okay to be angry, but that's not going to help anyone. It'll fuel you initially, but that has to subside at some point, for you to be, being vegan is the moral baseline. That's the least you can do. Eventually you have to speak up about it, and you have to learn to speak up. Initially you're going to be angry and want to fight everyone verbally. Why can't you see what I'm seeing? Why can't you see it? Well, they're not going to. I used to think my mom was crazy for not eating meat. It didn't make any sense to me. What, she's going to be frail and this, that, and little did I know, where's she getting her calcium? Well, guess what? What causes osteoporosis in this country is flesh and milk. You think you're getting calcium from milk? The truth about milk is you only you absorb very little of the calcium from milk. You really, it's not about what you drink, it's about what you absorb. When you drink in milk or eat animal flesh, it happens, it becomes very acidic. And to neutralize the acidity in your blood, you have to do it with phosphate. And that is taken, it's bound with calcium in your bones. So what happens is it gets released with the calcium, the phosphate neutralizes the acidity, and you pee out the calcium. So you're leaching out calcium from your bones, right? If we were, if calcium works so well, we are one of the largest drinkers of milk on the planet. America is. Why do we have so much osteoporosis? Have you looked at anyone in your family hunched over, breaking bones at an older age? Well, why? Aren't they drinking their 2-3 glasses of milk a day, right? Or taking a calcium pill? Well, if we were getting all the calcium we needed, why do we need that pill? Why are we getting osteoporosis? Well, I just told you the why, right? Sesame seeds, tahini made out of sesame seeds, dark leafy vegetables. Those are 60% bioavailable to absorb in the human body. That's what you want to be eating. So do not worry about calcium. Do not take a calcium supplement as well. You do not need it unless you're beyond repair and you're already suffering from osteoporosis. Then see your physician. But I'm saying, dairy is not the cure to that. Actually, dairy is going to hurt you. It raises IGF-1. You can look at that, but that's insulin growth factor 1. You want that when you're young, not through milk, to help you grow. But you also don't want tumors growing in you. Last thing you want to be consuming is a product from another species that has estrogen, hormones in it, into your own body. It's another. When you're done nursing from your mom, you're done. There's no other species that nurses when they're adults. With ice cream, you want ice cream? You can buy vegan ice cream. It's junk, but you can buy it. We just made ice cream this week out of plant-based milks. Almond Breeze has an extra creamy milk that you can just make incredible ice cream. You got to do the work. It's not hard. Buy an ice cream maker, you can get it done. But dairy is not the way to go. Dairy inhibits your iron absorption. I can tell you one thing, if you're on the fence, the first thing you should quit is dairy. You want to get rid of your asthma. You want to get rid of your acne. You want to help your bones. Now, you have to incorporate the good stuff, but get rid of that. You want to still eat chickens and other flesh until you transition. It's not good, but at least get rid of dairy now in regards to the health. And there's more cruelty in dairy than basically anything, right? You can look that up, but I'm happy to discuss it at some other point. But in regards to osteoporosis, you have the osteoblast and osteoclast. You have one that builds the bone, breaks down the bones, gives you little fractures, and then you have the osteoblast and osteoclast comes in, reshapes. So you need to use your bones. You want to prevent osteoporosis. It's not necessarily only the calcium; it's using them. You have to lift weights. Running and walking is not going to do it. You should do that, but that's not what's going to build your bones. You need to have weight resistance every day, right? It doesn't have to be significant. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but you need some type of resistance to put strain on your bones. And in regards to the dairy industry, you wonder, it's so cheap. Oh, it's more, it's less money than plant-based milk. Well, that's not the case anymore if you look in the store. But the government also subsidizes the dairy industry to $40 billion a year. Why do you think they keep? Pig farmers don't make money on pigs. They're paid. They're basically, all farmers are on welfare, not the plant farmers. They get like a couple percent, versus the animal farmers, like dairy alone, 40 billion, and you have to think of the wasted food that we have, according to Feeding America, which is not a vegan group. America wastes 108 billion pounds of food every year. 40% of all food is wasted. 40% of the food we eat. I mean, have you ever been in a grocery? Well, maybe you don't pay attention to it. I do. I'm in grocery stores. I see them throwing away tons of food every day. I asked them, are you donating it? No, it's going right in the garbage. Tons. Carts and carts and carts every day. I see it. And, 130 billion meals equal to $408 billion in food wasted every year in America. America alone. It's hard to believe. And, here's the thing too. You're going to say, how can I give up cheese? I told you can make it. There are some vegan cheeses out there that are absolutely atrocious. They're getting better. There's some incredible ones, Chow, and, I don't eat a lot of them, so it's hard for me to name them all, but Chow is a great one. There's plenty. I think Daiya has a new one. I never liked Daiya, but I just bought a new version of theirs. We're going to try it. You can make it easily, but the reason who eats cheese more than us, right? Let me read you some facts. The average American consumes 37 pounds of cheese per year, 67,000 calories, 67,000. There is something in cheese. It's called casomorphin. You're literally addicted to this. It acts on the same receptors that morphine does. Now, it's not as addictive as morphine, but it is addictive. Right? Try not having cheese if you have it all the time. We used to have cheese 2-3 times a day. Try not having it for a couple of days and see how you're doing. You're not going to go through withdrawal, but you are going to crave it. Well, what do you think? It's because of the casomorphin from the breast milk of the cow. Well, why does that happen? Well, the cow wants the calf to come back and be chill, right? If anyone's ever breastfed their baby kind of is in a state of euphoria when you're breastfeeding it and coos, if you will, and chills out. Same deal. Well, that's getting into us. Do you really want casomorphin from another animal? Not to mention they mentioned the estrogen. Now they'll say soy has estrogen. No, it's a phytoestrogen. It's completely different. It is a plant-based phytoestrogen that mimics that, but it does not do what estrogen does in your body. Okay, not at all. You can look up Neil Barnard. He goes into it for hours. Tell you, soy is actually a health product if you want to fight breast cancer or prostate cancer. Okay, now you don't want to overdo anything like that. You should overdo greens, but soy is not an enemy. Who came out with that dairy study? The dairy study. The dairy industry came out with the soy study, right? You have to look at when you see these things against the plants industry, whether it's almonds or soy, or see who's funding it. See who's funding even the plant studies, right? They're funding it as well. So, it could be mixed on both ways, but see who funds like the dairy studies or the meat studies or the bacon. Bacon's back and it's healthy, right? Or butter's back and it's healthy. Does anyone really believe butter is healthy? Come on. As I mentioned before, nor is the vegan butter, but at least there's no, suffering involved with it. So also with, if you eat hard cheeses, you also got to think that there's rennet in it. Not all of them, but what is rennet? Rennet is an enzyme found in the calf of a baby, in the stomach of a baby calf, right? A little baby that has been slaughtered, usually like a male calf that's of no use on the dairy farm. So they hit it on the head with a hammer on the farm, or they send it off for veal, or sometimes a cow is sent to slaughter and there's a baby in their stomach and they just slit the poor thing's throat there on the slaughter floor, throw it in the garbage. Rennet, it's an enzyme found in the calf stomach. They take that, and that is used in cheese, right? Who would have thought, right? Rennet, you can look that up. It's just something you don't want in your body. So I went over estrogen, as I mentioned, that they do no harm. So I'm hoping this helps a little bit, and I think you also have to think of the environmental, footprint on it. And I'm not going to delve too much in that, but think about it. It's 1,000 gallons of water for 1 gallon of milk. 1,000 gallons. Does that make sense? 1,000 gallons of water, 1 gallon of milk, 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of meat. 2,500 gallons doesn't make sense. Now, to think of what that is, it's the crops you're feeding, what they're feeding them. Cows are the biggest small fish eaters on the planet. They're vegetarians. They don't eat meat, but we feed them fish, cows. I'm not going to go into the marine debacle now. You can watch Seaspiracy if you like, but I mean, and it's really disturbing of what what we're doing to our oceans. But in regards to 2,500 gallons to produce barely any protein for you, it just doesn't make any sense. 576 gallons